Good afternoon. Okay, so here we are on our last session. Last chance to ask questions or make comments or anything like that. Yes, there's some. Yeah, the microphone's right there.
Well, as I shared before, I'm very new to meditation, and I'm very curious about the Buddhist principles. I'm from a Catholic background, and I was just wondering, I did ask Nolia, the retreat manager, where would you direct someone that is wanting to seek more like information and, about like Buddhism and its principles, because, we have the Catholics have the Bible, and she did tell me you don't have any, there's no book that you can just, read about it and discover for yourself. So where would you direct, what could you recommend for me as a start?
Contrary to popular beliefs, the recorded text of in the Buddhist scripture is several times thicker than the Bible. Several times. We call it the three baskets, the Tipitaka. Theravada Buddhists, like us monks, we focus on two of the three baskets. One is the Vinaya rules, which governs the monastic practices. But the main basket is composed of 5 books at least, right? The long discourses, the medium discourses, the numerical discourses, the connected discourses, and then the other discourses. And each of them is like that big. Fortunately for us, somebody called Bhante Sujato, one of Ajahn's disciples, I think it's Ajahn's disciple. Did he or did?
Not preceptor, but disciple,
yeah. Yeah, disciple, not that, okay. He set up this website called suttacentral.net. suttacentral.net. And it's a humongous project where he went and collected all the texts of these baskets. And not only did he collect the one set, just as you would know in Christianity or Catholicism, you would have the Latin original version, you might have the Greek version, the Roman version, and then the King James version, and then the new version. And then you wonder, okay, do they all actually tie together? Did they deviate? So Bhante Sujato went and found a whole lot, or as much as he could find. The not so-called original, but the oldest book that we have and the most complete book we have is probably the stuff that got the several copies that went to Sri Lanka, maybe 400 years after Buddha passed away. And then along the way, of course, there were still copies of all that in India, and then copies that went to China through the Silk Route, got translated into Chinese, got translated into Japanese, Korean. Eventually, some found its way back to Tibet, and the Tibetans have a version. And then Bhante Sujato puts that all side by side and compare them. So it's there on the website. Sometimes people criticize, well, are you sure these are the Buddhist sayings when the first 400 years, it wasn't even written down, it was just memorized. Memorized and recited, memorized, recited, and then you can imagine groups of monks would memorize different parts and go to different parts of India. Eventually, when the writing technology came along, they decided, okay, let's write it all down. Surprisingly, the text from China, the text from Sri Lanka, the text from Burma, they match so closely, even though they've been copied and translated. It's one of the wonders in the literary world. But the text can be quite, I do encourage you to read it yourself, for sure. The first few chapters or texts or suttas that you read, you probably find it quite cryptic. It takes a while to, again, acquire the taste. And then you see that because it was originally memorized for a few hundred years, they decided to streamline the introduction, streamline the ending of the suttas to aid the memorization, to say, okay, this happened in a place called Savatthi at a monastery called the Jetavana, and at that time the Buddha was there with how many monks, with who, and then this particular person, whether it's a king or a local ascetic or some other disciple, came up to the Buddha and asked this question, and the Buddha explained it this way. It's after a while, when you get into the flow of it, you realize how systematic the Buddha was in explaining a lot of stuff, and it was very thorough. In some occasions, he would give you a list of 5, a list of 6, a list of 8. In some suttas, he would tell you, this causes this causes this causes this, and this causes craving causes this causes birth causes old age, sickness, and death. But if you trace back the other way, step 1 is, what do you call it, delusion, thinking that you can find happiness. And then he has suttas which explain parts of this sutta. What is craving? What is delusion? So it's a lot to read if you are starting from beginner stage, before you acquire that taste. So along the ways, of course, then there are writers who try to summarize, or people like me try to summarize stuff so that you don't really need to see stage 1 to stage 12 or whatever, but pick out the interesting bits for a beginner. Yeah. But yes, suttacentral.net. It's all free, fully supported by some benefactor. Otherwise, online YouTubes and all that, there's plenty of instruction. People would give an hour Dhamma talk based on one sutta. Ajahn Brahmali would give you 6 Dhamma talks based on one sutta. It's all on BSWA website and YouTube, yeah. Any other question? Yes.
Venerable, we always hear that Panchaskandha is dukkha. Panchaskandha is the activities of the 5 senses, and that is dukkha. That's one thing that is very commonly stated in books and everywhere. And then the other one I heard, if you don't know for real, you might know that five khandhas is dukkha, or is suffering, leads to suffering, but that's not enough to give a tick for the first noble truth, not the noble truth, the first path in the Eightfold Path, some right view. So right view comes only when you really, really know that the 5 khandhas is dukkha, 5 panchaskandha is dukkha. Do you know the difference between just knowing and really, really knowing?
Yes, which is why this kind of questions, a lot of people debate on it, and I try to avoid the debates, because most of us would debate on it using opinions, what we thought somebody said, what we thought the other teacher said. Let me backtrack a bit and explain to the rest. The 5 khandhas, this is another analysis by the Buddha. Again, you can look at it in a shallow way, you can look at it in a very deep way. He says, as a living being, you can think of a living being as composed of 5 parts. 1 the physical form, the body, the bones, the skin, the whatever. If you go and look in a mortuary, that thing there in the box is the first khanda. If you take away the consciousness, all that's left is the first khanda, the form. And then the second khanda, he calls it the Vedana, or some people translate it as feeling. Ajahn Brahm translates it as experience. So this part that decides whether something was pleasant or something was unpleasant or something was just neutral and inconsequential is part of our consciousness, one aspect of it. It can't operate on its own. It first has to receive the signal in from the outside, and that's some kind of contact. I must touch something to decide if this is hot or cold. I must hear a sound, decide whether it's soothing or discordant. This third part, sanya, perception, is the part that gives meaning to your sensory inputs. You're hearing a sound coming through your ear, but you hear it as meaning, as English words. And those English words carry emotions, carry concepts. Somewhere in there, this sound is translated into those meanings. And it can be that the meaning you pick up makes sense to you. It could be that the meaning you pick up you consider nonsense. And it's all on your side of it's within that being's consciousness that does this thing. After these two, the fourth one, commonly translated as volitional formation, sankhara. Sankhara, again in Pali, is one of those big words that has many shades of meaning. You can look at it as a small thing, a creation, as something that you make, or sankhara can be the entire creation or any kind of creation. In this context, it's all your decision making, your word forming, your speech making, your decision to judge, I think, not as good as the other meditator who could get all this. The movement of the mind coming from a reaction from those two, number 2 and number 3. And then number 5 is the mind itself, the consciousness, the fact that you know, the fact that the decisions are going on, the feelings are going on, that you're actually awake or aware of what's going on. So these are the 5 khandhas. So in the deepest of texts, even in the first statement of first Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the first turning of the wheel, the first official sermon recorded in the canon, it says these 5 khandhas, they are suffering. The fact that you have to listen to somebody talk, the fact that you have to eat and taste the food is suffering. The fact that then I have to decide whether to talk at 1 p.m. or to go back at whatever time to decide to do something, it's a burden, just as we spoke this morning. So, for the most of us, we don't see it that way. What do you mean? Ice cream is a burden. Ice cream is a pleasure, isn't it? And again, if you had been in that state of bliss for 7 whole days, totally without the burden of the body, and then you say, ice cream, come out, it's ice cream time. Would that person rather come out and have that ice cream or just stay inside with bliss? You have to ask me at the back. The answer is quite obvious. You don't have the burden of ice cream. So, how to come to the state where you decide that the ice cream is dukkha? You have to get that far to the other end. And then look back and see if you really like ice cream. And that's the endeavor of people who put on this brown thing and say, okay, I think I trust Ajahn Brahm to go look for this thing and see if what the sutta says is true, because Ajahn Brahm is not the only one who says it. Many have done it, many have tasted that bliss. And I will also tell you what May has tasted is probably not 1/10 of the way to the far end. So, is the five khandha dukkha? Up to us to decide. From your vantage point, from our vantage point, from Ajahn vantage point, it's all different. Ajahn often repeats what the wise consider as pleasure, the common people say is a pain. What the common people say is a pleasure, the wise people say is a pain. Very cryptic if you didn't see it, if you didn't see what May saw.
So what really is going to tick the box for knowing the right view? If it is not the dukkha.
So likewise, in one sutta, the Buddha says, if you understood Four Noble Truths, you'd be an arahant. As simple as that. But then, okay, what is Four Noble Truths? I think I know. Suffering, source of suffering, the cessation of suffering, the path leading to the cessation of suffering. I can count that too. Do I understand? Not yet.
That's right.
Right? I think I can understand the general concepts. Do I understand enough that I can clearly see what I'm doing is suffering? Can I clearly see enough that I don't know why I bother reading the news? But up to now, I'd like to read the news and see what's going on. To an arahant, suffering. You don't need to know what's happening in Palestine or if you're going to do something about it, well and good. If you're going to somehow get Dhamma teachings to Mr. Benjamin, very good. But if you're not prepared to do that, then to talk about it over breakfast, what's the point?
Thank you, Venerable. No, it is not a simple thing.
No, it's not. So which is why the Buddha, after those 7 days, he was thinking, who shall I teach this to? It's so complicated. And the way the Buddha explained, it took one of the high gods to come down and say, please teach. For all our sakes, please teach.
Oh, hello. That's all very well and good, but I think the lady was talking about something we found all very hard when we start. I've been going for 8 or 9 years, and the hardest part was to find someone to talk just basic, ordinary, everyday stuff. They like to get into dharmas and sutras and when people don't even know what it means, you know what I mean? It's true, it is. And even the older lay Buddhists want to talk to you, but they seem to always want to go up that extra step, whereas when you're starting off, you need the basics, like you need what is meditation and all them little books that are available at the Dharmaloka library. Do you go to Dharmaloka? No, well, if you go to Dharmaloka, the library, you will get all that basic stuff, but Look, I found it all very hard to find on the internet and that because it takes big steps.
Yes.
And I'm 81 now. I reckon I'll be 181 before I got to the full bottle. I really think that's what she was meaning.
Yes. So it is
Thank
true.
you.
It is true. Buddhism is so complicated. If you look really deep into it, the depth is very far down. But the good thing about Buddhism is that even the Buddha, despite having seen the whole jigsaw, decided to design the teaching in a way that's called the gradual training. You don't have to understand everything day one. You take baby steps. You listen to Ajahn Brahm's Friday night talks, or whoever might be talking on Friday night, and it gives you a glimpse into what the concepts of Buddhism are. And as you figure out those concepts, then you hear such things as the 5 precepts. You hear such things as charity, generosity, kindness. And then when you are hooked, then you start coming to Jhana Grove and listen to all this complicated, intriguing, fascinating stuff. And so it's very baby steps along the way. What you guys in Perth don't know or are not aware of is that Perth is very quickly becoming a well-established center of Buddhism, especially if you talk about the English-speaking world. As I was saying yesterday, we now have a very well-established monastery, monks' monastery, a very well-established nuns' monastery. When King Asoka asked his son and daughter to bring Buddhism, both his son and daughter became monks and a monk and a nun, and they brought Buddhism to Sri Lanka at the invitation of the Sri Lankan king. The nun brought a sapling from the original Bodhi tree. And when they planted the Bodhi tree and did the ceremony, the king said, "Whoa, very good. Now Buddhism is established in Sri Lanka." And the monk said, "No, not yet. You can say that when one of your local boys become a monk." Good news, in Perth, in Australia, many local boys have become a monk. Prime example. So yes, you're in a lucky place. Just don't know it yet. Yeah. So, in several suttas, the Buddha also says, stick close to the wise ones. This wisdom will rub off. You will pick them up just by the fact that you're in contact with them, interacting with them. Again, I was saying to somebody yesterday, this is a very strange era that we lived in. For the last 2,550 years or whatever, Buddhism has been around. But it always needed you to be physically close to the monastics. These days, just this last 10, 20 years, Buddhism is available everywhere on the globe. So long as you have a smartphone, you can interact. It's only these 20, 30 years. 10 years even, I think. So yes, you're in a lucky time. Then again, us Buddhist monks are also aware that the Buddha himself predicted a day will come when Buddhism will be so corrupted, it'll be quite useless. And you can see signs of Buddhism being corrupted. Here, maybe not from so far away as from another religion, but within the religion you can see that some of the rules that the Buddha laid down are not being practiced, You can see that Buddhism in America, for example, is very much appropriated by non-monastics. And the likes of Ajahn Brahm, Ajahn Brahmali tries to counter that from afar. Of course, they have a louder megaphone over the other side of the pond, as they say. So, yeah. So, anyways, long story short, stick close to BSWA. Lots of good stuff. Yes. Any other comments? Yes.
On that subject, on corrupting the Buddhism or Dhamma, we might want to touch on this mindfulness as a business. The mindfulness that is practiced in America and some other countries, and in some Buddhist countries as well, that has nothing to do with the way that the Buddha has taught.
Well, mindfulness, sometimes I also, it depends. Mindfulness by itself is obviously a good thing. Can you actually use mindfulness for evil and for doing bad? Yes, you can, but very unlikely. Somebody who's too distracted with ill will not bother with mindfulness. They will just go with their emotions and whatever the push and pull. So mindfulness generally leads to good states. A mindful mother, whether she believes in Buddhism or not, is a good mother. Venerable Radha was just showing me yesterday, not only is mindfulness turned into a business, Jhana states is being turned into a business. You can find apps for that and pay subscription for it too, I understand. I just found out yesterday. I don't know, that's what I was saying. It's all being appropriated by people who don't really live the Buddha's training rules, but believe that they can shortcut it, hack it, and distill it and give you a product. As you yourselves have seen, it's really deep stuff. If you really want to go to the deep end, the understanding of Four Noble Truths, easy to count, easy to recite, not easy to understand. Can you gain understanding through an app? Not sure. I haven't seen it happen yet. So yeah. Ajahn Brahm has done a tremendous job putting Buddhism, planting Buddhism here in Perth. So you guys are the luckiest English-speaking folks that I know. Yeah. So that enjoy BSWA while you can. Ajahn turns 74 this year, and he keeps reminding us the Buddha passed away at 80. So yes, especially those who are fortunate enough to be retired, you have a few more years. Okay. See, I tell you, I'm not sure why. I have this tendency to give everybody a long dour face in my Dhamma talk. All right. Clock shows it's 1:30. I know you have an appointment at 2:30 with Nolia and Christina. There's not much more I can share with you about meditation itself. We've done a lot of the tricks that I know, the hacks that I know, which is to relax, to enjoy, to treasure the time that you have on your cushion. When you realize how rare this opportunity is, it's hard to realize that it's rare when you're living in Perth. For the rest of the world, they would fly in Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia, fly into this very hall to listen to an Ajahn Brahm. Okay, so perhaps we can start the meditation, or does anybody need a break? While we're waiting, you can already start setting yourself into a relaxed mode. Bring your attention inwards. Give yourself a head start. To relieve any tensions that you might have in your muscles. I'm quite sure you can already tell right now you feel a lot healthier than when you first checked in on Friday evening. The mind is just a bit fuller, more energized. The body more relaxed and healthy. And as we relax, just counting the blessings that we got to be in this hall, in this Jhana Grove, for a whole weekend. And the purpose, just to relax. Just to recuperate. The idea of giving thanks, being grateful, really softens the heart. Allowing all the good emotions to blossom. as always. Let's start at the abdominal area again. Relax all the muscles, front and back. As you become better at this, as you become more sensitive, there's more to feel, and there's more to relax. Enlarge your attention area to also include the chest and thoracic area. Let the breath circulate freely. And let the mind follow the breath. And then you could possibly let the breath and the mind choose their own destination. If they want to fix a headache or a stiff neck or whatever, let them do their thing. if you sense any joy or happiness, just acknowledging it amplifies it. Every once in a while, if you find yourself dull, just look for breath again. Follow breath around. as you become more and more comfortable, let the mind focus just on the breath and nothing else. It's as if two little kittens, siblings, one following the other closely behind, watching wherever it goes. You don't have to know where in the body the breath is going. You just need to know that the attention, the mind, is right there wherever the breath is. If you find that the mind is tired or sleepy, then trying to follow the breath might be too much work. In which case, the trick would be just for the attention to just ride on the breath, place it on the breath gently. Doesn't have to follow. The breath takes the mind along. Now, if the mind still doesn't want to settle down, perhaps it's time to just do the Ananda method. It's not really a method. It's basically just giving up. Slump back in your chair and give up. This mind of ours can be very rebellious at times. Doesn't like to be told what to do. So we might lean back and tell the mind, go ahead, do your thing. I'm in two minds whether to interrupt you or intrude. As usual, if you're enjoying your meditation, please ignore me. But if the meditation is dull, you might want to try something interesting. Ajahn Brahm occasionally do this during a 9-day retreat, which is to go zap people who are not here with loving kindness. We have about 20 minutes for this exercise. You can choose to recall one person or many persons or whatever number you think. Recall one person at a time, near and dear to you. Imagine them sitting right in front of you at arm's length. And just as you might have a connection with a little kitten, you can also have a connection with this image. And if you can see or feel this image in front of you, you can just send forth a lot of metta, kindness, goodwill. Person to person, heart to heart, smile to smile. Like this person is in your cave. You have the power to drench this person with loving kindness. may see the expression of that person change in response to your metta. And when you're done with one, you can switch to another person at your own time. clock shows 2:25 now. I apologize. This one occasion, I think I should use the ceremonial bell. But let's indulge in one last minute of joyful breathing. Very good. Thank you. Till the next time. No ceremonies. You have a 2:30 appointment to keep. All right. See you guys then.